Kicking our show off today, the Andrew Freedman Home hosted a community forum. It was a discussion on the arts and social responsibility involving panelists, community members, and artists of the Bronx. Our BronxNet correspondent, Sanji Lopez, brings us the story.
Loving the Bronx was a discussion on the arts and social responsibility for artists, community members, and art institutions to hold an open forum within a safe space at the Andrew Freedman Home.
I hope Bronx organizations, Bronx businesses, Bronx people can start coming together to think about alternative solutions on how to make the Bronx stronger as a network for the people who are living in the Bronx. It's also talking about artists and social responsibility, artists and representation, and what ideas that we can bring to the table. I would like to talk about technology at some point too, in which we can be more cohesive and not be branded by outside forces, not be displaced because of property appreciation, not be displaced in art and the narrative of art and having art that's still representational of our borough and our culture.
When I think of working together, I think of finding new ways that we can work together. And one of the ways that we can do that is by having open and expansive conversations about what we need, what exists in the Bronx, what is coming to the Bronx, what is in the Bronx, and how we can bring all of those things together to create the best solutions for the arts to continue to thrive in the Bronx.
I'm always interested in what makes us the same versus what makes us different, and how we can get to that point. And it's not easy. It's always very difficult to unite so many different people, but I don't think it's impossible. So I do feel like these conversations are important, where it's not about Elia and, like, say, Charles and Walter talking amongst themselves and you listening, but actually us listening to what people have to say.
While the conversations surrounding the arts go beyond the canceled It's the Bronx Festival, the Bronx-based grassroots collective Hydropunk organized and presented testimonies from artists involved in It's the Bronx, conducted surveys to gather community and artist input on how arts and cultural institutions can better sustain artists, and through this information, Hydropunk formulated a list of demands, which they handed off to panelists.
We're here today to bring awareness on art washing and the hyper-regality of gentrification and how it's affecting our working class communities. Many of the artists that we're serving here today are being affected by it. We made a survey. We got about 70 testaments from local artists on what they would like to see, how arts and cultural institutions here in the Bronx could work together to provide alternates for us, how to promote sustainability, and how to promote borough unity and empowerment.
I feel like working with Hydropunk, working with other folks in community that are trying to bring things together cohesively and in a way that benefits everyone, not just folks that were part of It's the Bronx or folks that are vendors and activists, but bringing everything together to remember we're all one people, we all deal with a lot of the same base issues, and when we acknowledge each other and love on each other, everything can be a lot easier.
Some speakers also delved into many different topics such as gentrification, displacement, and other issues that they feel affect the community as a whole.
Revitalization is something that we've been starving for, and then the older folks in the community are like, well, we want this, we do want this. But that is something that is being laid out for private development. It's for private development. It's because a developer wants to build somewhere where people want to live.
They rent and they thrive in, but don't live in Mott Haven. Ironically, they dress and feed those that are orchestrating the demise of my neighbors. Developers, artists, and entrepreneurs have created a hostile environment and are complacent in our rebranding. They curate events and experiences that are exclusive, private, yet free. The same things that are making our neighborhoods suddenly so attractive seem within our reach. But we are not welcomed in this collective experience.
Our goal is to create an equitable platform for artists and creatives and vendors that don't come at the cost of their communities. Because the reality is, a lot of these spaces don't have these safeguards available, and that they take money from certain places. And it shouldn't have to be that way. You shouldn't have to lose your community and your home have anything.
The Andrew Freedman Home hopes to continue hosting these pertinent community conversations within its space.
We need to have these conversations publicly about what's going on in our community and bridge that gap between the youth that is very loud and kind of boisterous. Sometimes we, as somebody who's a little bit older in the community, who might know the network or might have the funding or the resources, really reach out and help these young people and come to these events and not be afraid of what they're saying.
We're going to do this quarterly, and more organized. So I hope that you continue to be a part of this.
You can watch the full Loving the Bronx Forum on BronxNet channels Optimum 67 and Files 33 and BronxNet.org. Reporting for BronxNet, Sanji Lopez.
And thank you, Sanji. And that's all we have for our Bronx updates.